Okay, Emmett Fox is doing a series of key words and from the Bible. And the one for today is judgment. Judgment in the Bible means deciding upon the truth or falsity of any thought. This process necessarily goes on in our minds all the time we are awake, and the extent to which we judge righteous judgments determines the character of our lives. To accept evil at its face value is to judge wrongly and bring its natural punishment. To decline to believe in evil and to affirm the good is righteous judgment and brings the reward of happiness and harmony. Thus, the judgment is not a great trial to take place at the end of time. It is a process that goes on every day. When Jesus said, "Judge not, that ye be not judged," he meant that to condemn our brother or sister out of hand, instead of seeing the Christ within him or her, is to put ourselves in danger because we are making a reality of those appearances in him or her. And whatever we make real, we must demonstrate in our own lives.
Once again, what Emma Fox has to say fits with what I have to say. And I did not know what was scheduled for today when I felt led to create this talk. We're going to explore the concept of our spiritual roots and how those roots grow us into the future. You may recall several times I've mentioned a revelation that Father Richard Rohr had, that he could not only pray for future events, but he could also pray for past events. And I think if you consider the multidimensionality of the spiritual walk, that can make a great deal of sense to you. The problem we have, each of us, is to avoid walking in our past thoughts. I came across an article just recently where it was something about something spiritual, but I can't remember exactly what, but the phrase struck me. Einstein revolutionized how we think about time, but we're still living in pre-Einstein thinking. And the same happens to us. I read a number of agony columns because I figure in my lift on therapy work, sooner or later, any problem that someone writes into Ann Landers or Dear Abby about, I'll end up encountering myself. And one of the things I've seen, one of the problems I've seen in so many writers is that the problem they're going through or seeking advice about wouldn't exist if they were not stuck in old spiritual understandings or spiritual beliefs. One that comes to mind, and I see many of these, where a child is feeling obligated to give up his or her life to take care of mother or father, because that's what the Bible says you're supposed to do, even though the mother or father was an abusive SOB. They're afraid they're going to go to hell if they don't do it. They're afraid that they will be categorized as wrong or evil if they don't do it, because that is what they were taught, the precepts they were taught about their spiritual walk when they were young. In some cases, they actually acknowledge that they no longer go to that conservative or Pentecostal church or anything like that, and yet they are still bugged by those feelings. Sort of like honor thy father and mother, or you're going to hell, thank God. to quote Sister Pepper. Now, I'm going to talk about this mostly in the Christian perspective because most of us come from the Christian perspective. But please understand, this is applicable to any belief pattern in which you were raised or in which you grew up, though you may not be following it actively at this point or believing in it. The difference between our conscious decisions and our subconscious programming, if you will. One of the conundrums, I think we can say, about growing up in a Christian church is the dichotomy of what you're taught. When you're a little kid, Jesus loves me, this I know. But then, say by the time you're in middle school, you're starting to get deluged with messages about you're going to hell, thank God, to quote Sister Pepper. And I was thinking about that and thought I'd look up songs about hell. And I found a bunch of them. And there was an intro to one collection. And I'm going to quote this intro just so you can see what sort of things so many people had drilled into them, so it's become part of their software, whether they know it or not. It says, unmatched by his kingdom, the opposition to God lays in fires of eternal suffering. Hell is the waiting place of our enemy. However, where fears rise and our hope becomes distant, we are reminded of God's promise to bring restoration to his people. Nothing will remain without judgment. Now notice this is a different kind of judgment than Emmett Fox was talking about. But all who believe in the Son and follow his will be exalted in heaven. And then here's the first song, the lyrics. And I probably won't go through all of it. The song is titled, This is Hell. No one is here to save you. This is what you chose. Living for yourself and no one. Demons surround you and your cries will go unheard. Is this really what you want? Flesh melting, skin burning, eternal flame. Now, where do you stand? Will you take your place as one of the chosen ones, or will you burn eternally in hell? I can feel the devil's hands around my neck. This is hell, and it goes on from there. In the lift work I do, in talking with people just in everyday life, so many of them, whether they know it or not, are still responding to that fear that was inculcated in them when they were young. Now, question and answer area, some of the common questions were, will a Christian like me go to hell for listening to death metal? Will I go to hell if I sing a song with bad words in it? Now, this is very specific. I'm not saying that I expect any of you is dealing with something this simplistic, but know that every one of us, however we were raised when we were young, is carrying in our software, where our conscious mind cannot touch it, belief sets that are limiting our ability to walk a closer spiritual walk because our beliefs are keeping us apart from the truth, the truth that we are to experience. And that's not my truth. It's not her truth. It's the truth God has for you. And this I'm bringing up so that you can consider in your own lives as you walk through life. And what we're going to do at the end is we'll do a small meditation to allow change and new understandings to come in. So you've been inculcated, and you still are. Interesting side note, I was doing some work, one of my lift practitioners was working on me, doing some training and helping me heal. And doggone it, if we didn't come up with a whole bunch of beliefs about how I need to live in poverty in order to show my love for God and go to heaven. Well, first of all, I don't believe in that kind of heaven. Second of all, I thought I'd gotten rid of all that blank long ago, but no, it was still in my software. And whatever yours is, one way or another, by prayer, by meditation, by lift, it needs to be exercised, because it is handicapping the good that is yours in this life, as it is related to spiritual beliefs of supposed to not have it. It is handicapping your ability to grow spiritually, because all these bars have been planted in your path, just like a jail. So what we're saying is what transactional analysis calls family scripting, what we call your internal operating software. When you were taught things spiritual when you were young, you had no reason to doubt that that wasn't true, and you put it in your software. That's what you're supposed to do. Difficulty is, as you grew up, as you became aware that there were, on a conscious level, alternatives that made more sense to you in many cases, or you wouldn't be here listening to me, they're still a part of you, unless you've already done the lift work or whatever other process that's hanging on to the old beliefs. No, not that way, not that way. This is what's true, because that was what was written in before you were 10 years old. Recently, I had a conversation, someone who was inquiring of maybe doing some lift work. She had discovered her husband was cheating and had no plans to change otherwise. Honestly, it sure sounded like he was also pretty thoroughly verbally abusing her, but she did not say it in that way. Not my job to accuse him. But her biggest fear was that if she left him, she would be consigned to hell, because God doesn't like divorce. Now, she has been moving away from the ultra-conservative Christianity that she was raised in. In our conversations, I learned that much. But there was still that fear there. And that fear is handicapping her ability to make wise judgments. Judgments. That's how the circle goes. Our spiritual walk is designed to enable us to build wiser judgments, because they're tied into God's love, into God's understanding of the righteousness and the joy in this world. And that is not a set of hard and fast rules. Personally, my take is any religion that's giving you hard and fast rules, that especially if you're supposed to obey the elder or the minister, probably someone's on a power trip. If you look at Jesus, he was not an elder, he was not a minister, he was sharing wisdom. If you look at George Fox, the founder of Quakerism, he was sharing wisdom and trusting that people finding how to hear the spark of God within could move forward into a more loving, more righteous, more spiritually filled life. That should be the goal of all of us, to continue moving forward into a more spiritually connected, more spiritually whole life. And if we're being bogged down by beliefs in our subconscious that we may not even be consciously aware of, we're trying to haul a 2-ton pickup truck just over our shoulders, and that 2-ton pickup truck is filled with the false beliefs. There's the old saying, the past is prologue to the future. And as I was writing this, I was thinking, well, yes, but that's a sort of general statement, and we're talking something far more specific. Your spiritual roots, which started coming in probably even before you hit the womb. But the ones that are sticking now are the ones that you encountered in the womb and in your early childhood. And those roots grow into your future. Unless you prune them or unless you grow them a different direction. You are carrying positives and damage in the spiritual walk. And I'm sticking pretty much specifically to spiritual walk here. From the ancestors, your ancestors, and from the souls, the bodies you lived in before, and their experiences. Those of you familiar with lift on therapy, you know, often we end up having to heal damage from past soul lives. And there are other people doing it other ways. I remember talking with a hypnotherapist who told me of a man who had come to him because he had this stabbing pain in his chest, and everything physical checked out. It made no sense. And doing the therapy and regression, the man recounted the time that he was a Roman soldier and under orders took a spear and skewered a Christian family. Later in that life, he himself, in a major part because of his guilt, but also because of the message, became a Christian. Christians back then were one of the few, if not the only, religions where you weren't expected to pay lots of bribes and give lots of goods to the high priests, where things were shared and love was shared. And if you were hurting, the Christians would help you. It was the Christians during one of the plagues who did not flee from the city. They stayed and cared for those who were sick and those who were dying. They were the only ones willing to put themselves to risk to bury the dead. Well, fast forward, this once Roman soldier, Christian, grief-stricken for what he had done, feeling he had to punish himself, in this life was continuing to punish himself by experiencing the spear thrust. And once the awareness had come and he had forgiven himself, was then able to forgive himself in this life, the pain was gone. It's far be it for me to say what experiences have led to your spiritual beliefs, your cautions, concerns. But you know what? You can let go of anything that's getting in your way. Your future does not have to be shaped by the roots that are in your past. That's the important thing to carry from this. Just as Richard Rohr talks about praying into the future and praying into the past, you can release and heal into the past and pray forward and heal forward into the future to a happier, deeper spiritual walk with more spiritual understanding. How do you do it? Well, you start by making the decision that you are ready to change up your belief patterns, that you're ready to open up to new spiritual connections and understandings, that you are ready to let go of the perceived safety of the bars of solid belief of your past, so that you can be shown new understandings, new peace in your walk. And with that said, I'd like to go into, with you all, a meditational state and lead you through a vision that may help you decide to let go and also to welcome the new. Bear in mind, I do not encourage letting go of everything all at once or blindly grasping onto anything new. Because you might end up being one of the people then who believes there's 175,000 Venetian angels whose names you have to memorize so that you can go to heaven. Yeah, that's their path, fine. But it doesn't necessarily need to be yours. All new ideas are not necessarily appropriate ideas to you or necessarily appropriate ideas, period. My rule of thumb when a new idea or concern comes is, does it fit in with God's positive, nurturing love and God's welcoming of us to come ever closer into his being and his love? So close your eyes. Let yourself become open to the Spirit. Breathe easy. I want you to go into your spiritual house, the place you go when you pray most privately. Somewhere in your spiritual house is the golden book that is your personal belief scrapbook. Go to the shelf, go to the drawer. Allow the internal spirit to lead you to where it is. I want you to take that book out and walk over to the altar. And you can tell the altar because divine light is flooding that spot. Offer your belief scrapbook to the divine. Say, here, God, take it, cleanse it and me of false beliefs. Help me to find more true beliefs. And you set this book on the altar, you flip it about halfway open. And as you watch, you see pages begin to flip one way or another until there's another page facing outward in God's golden light. This is the page. It's time for you to let go. Don't take it out immediately. Instead, say, okay, God, show me what I need to understand. Instead, and as you watch, there will materialize in this light a new page. Watch it materialize. And it floats down and erases the old page and puts itself in instead. This is another new and better understanding. It may come by slow materialization. It may come poof with a new understanding. It may come slowly over time, coming out of the fog of everyday life. Leave your scrapbook there on the altar to continue healing and improving. Breathe in the stillness of this, your sacred place. Welcome the new learning. Let yourself understand what changes it's time to make in the new world, in the real world, to reflect this new learning. And know, since you have made the decision that you are going to let more of the old falsities, the old rigidities go, that you will have the fun of new understandings, new revelations, improvements in your spiritual walk in life from now on. We thank you for this time together, God. We thank you for blessing this time together and enriching our lives by what we are able to share here. We thank you for bringing us together, for continuing our relationship, our opportunities to gather, for providing the sustenance so that each of us can continue to walk on this earth. We thank you for increased wisdom that you are bringing us, for additional abundance and joy on this earth, and for giving us sufficient extra that we are able to share with others. We thank you for guiding us and protecting us as we depart from here, and as appropriate, guiding us all back here again, preferably next week, so we can laugh together, enjoy together, and learn together. We say thank you for all the good that you've poured upon us and all the wisdom you're providing us, dear God. And amen.
Amen.